No, my name is Alara Vance, and for most of my life people believe they understood my worth just by looking at where I came from. I wasn't loud like my older sister. I wasn't the type who demanded attention when I walked into a room. I was quiet, thoughtful, and careful with my words. But in my family, silence was mistaken for weakness. And unfortunately for me, the person who believed that the most was the one person I once trusted more than anyone else, my sister. Before this story goes any further, please like, comment, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Your support helps stories like this reach people who may be going through the same kind of struggles. Growing up, people always described my sister Serena Vance as the strong one. She was confident, fearless, and charming. Teachers loved her. Friends admired her. Even adults listened closely whenever she spoke, as if her opinions carried more weight than anyone else's. When we were children, I used to look at her with pride. Serena was the kind of sister who could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with everyone laughing. She knew how to command attention without even trying. I was the opposite. While Serena enjoyed the spotlight, I preferred observing quietly from the corner. I listened more than I spoke. I noticed small details other people ignored. My father used to say that my silence wasn't weakness. It was awareness. But after he passed away, that belief slowly disappeared from our home. Our father, Victor Vance, had been the heart of our family. He built a small real estate company from the ground up. It wasn't the biggest business in the city, but it was stable and respected. People trusted him. He treated employees like family and believed in fairness more than profit. Growing up, I spent hours sitting beside him in his office while he reviewed papers or spoke with clients. I rarely said much, but he always included me in the conversation. "You're watching everything," he once told me with a smile. "That's a rare kind of strength, Alara." Serena used to roll her eyes when he said things like that. "She barely talks," Serena joked one evening during dinner. "How can she run a business if she can't even argue properly?" My father only laughed. Not everyone needs to shout to be heard. At the time, those words didn't seem important. But later, they became the only thing that kept me standing. Everything changed the year my father became sick. Hospitals replaced family dinners. Conversations turned quiet and tense. And suddenly money, something we had never argued about before, became the center of every discussion. Serena started paying closer attention to the company. She attended meetings, asked questions, and spoke with investors. At first I thought she was simply trying to help. But over time, I noticed a different energy in her. She wasn't just learning the business. She was claiming it. When our father finally passed away, the house felt colder than it ever had before. I remember standing in the hallway the night after the funeral, listening to relatives whisper in the living room. Some of them talked about the company. Others talked about the properties my father owned. I didn't want to hear any of it. To me, the loss was personal. To them, it was financial. Serena, however, looked completely focused. 3 days after the funeral, she was already speaking with lawyers. A week later, the official reading of the will was scheduled. I remember the tension in the room that afternoon. My mother sat quietly on the couch, holding a tissue in her hands. Serena sat straight with her arms crossed, her expression serious but expectant. I chose a chair near the window, hoping the meeting would end quickly. The lawyer opened a folder and adjusted his glasses. "Your father left instructions regarding the company and his properties." Serena leaned forward immediately. I stayed silent. "The majority of the estate," the lawyer continued, "including the lakefront property and shares in the business, will be inherited by both daughters." Serena's lips curved into a satisfied smile. But then the lawyer added something unexpected. "There is a condition." The room became still. "Both daughters must manage the company together for 1 year before the inheritance is finalized. If one daughter withdraws from the agreement, the other will receive full ownership." Serena slowly leaned back in her chair and smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a calculating one. That was the first moment I felt something shift between us. At first, things seemed manageable. Serena handled most of the talking during meetings, while I worked quietly on the details behind the scenes. But little by little, her patience with me began to disappear. "You're too slow," she said during one meeting after I suggested reviewing a contract more carefully. "Careful decisions prevent mistakes," I replied calmly. She laughed in front of the entire room. "Careful decisions waste opportunities." The investors chuckled politely. I felt my cheeks grow warm, but I said nothing. Moments like that became more frequent. If I hesitated, Serena called me weak. If I questioned something, she called me insecure. If I stayed quiet, she said I didn't understand business. Eventually, people began to believe her version of the story. But what Serena never noticed was that while she spoke loudly in meetings, I was watching everything else. Who trusted us? Who didn't? Which deals were safe? Which ones were traps? And slowly, I started noticing something strange. Certain documents moved faster than they should have. Certain approvals appeared without discussion. And Serena always seemed one step ahead. One afternoon, she walked into my office carrying a folder and dropped it on my desk. "You should sign this." I opened it and felt my stomach tighten. It was a withdrawal agreement. "If you step away now," Serena explained casually, "the company becomes mine. It's easier for everyone." "That wasn't what Father wanted," I said quietly. Serena leaned closer to me, lowering her voice. "Let's stop pretending, Alara. You were never meant to run this business." Her words were sharp and cold. "You're weak." The word lingered in the air between us. I looked at her, searching for even a small sign of the sister I used to know. But she was gone, replaced by someone ambitious, impatient, and determined to win no matter the cost. "I need time," I said finally. Serena shrugged. "Take all the time you want. You'll still lose." That evening, I left the office long after everyone else had gone home. The streets were quiet, and the air felt heavy. I walked for nearly an hour before finding myself inside a small cafe near the river. For the first time since my father died, I allowed myself to feel the weight of everything. Maybe Serena was right. Maybe I wasn't strong enough for this world. Maybe my silence really did make me weak. I stared at my phone, thinking about the document waiting on my desk. And then suddenly it buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared on the screen. "Don't sign anything yet." I frowned. A second message followed. "Your father trusted you more than you realize." My heart started beating faster. Then a third message arrived. "Meet me tomorrow. I can prove your sister is hiding something." Below the message was an address. For several seconds I just stared at the screen, unsure whether to ignore it or not. But deep inside me something stirred. A small spark of curiosity. Maybe even hope. Because if there was even the slightest chance that my father had believed in me, I needed to know. I finished my coffee, stood up, and walked out into the cool night air. I had no idea that the decision I was about to make would change my entire life. Because the next day, I would meet the man who would show me that everything my sister believed about me was wrong. And that my story was only just beginning. The next morning, Alara stood outside the address that had been sent to her phone. It was an office building she had passed many times in the city, but never paid attention to. The structure was simple and quiet, nothing like the glass towers Serena preferred for meetings. For a moment, she wondered if coming here was a mistake. After everything that had happened, trusting a stranger felt risky. But curiosity was stronger than fear. She took a slow breath and stepped inside. The hallway smelled faintly of fresh paint and coffee. At the end of the corridor was a door slightly open. Before she could knock, the door moved wider and a man stepped out. He looked to be in his early 30s. Tall, calm, and dressed simply. His eyes studied her carefully, but there was nothing threatening about his expression. "Alara Vance?" he asked. She nodded cautiously. "I'm Noah Cade," he said. "I've been expecting you." There was something steady about his voice that immediately made her feel less tense. "You sent the messages," she said. "Yes. Why?" Instead of answering immediately, Noah stepped aside and gestured toward the room behind him. "Come in. I think it's time someone told you the truth." Alara hesitated only a second before walking inside. The office looked more like a workspace than a company headquarters. Papers were spread across a long table. Maps were pinned to the walls. Several files were stacked neatly near a laptop. Noah closed the door quietly. "You worked with my father?" she asked. He nodded. "For years. My father never mentioned you." "That was intentional." Alara frowned. "What does that mean?" Noah walked to the table and picked up a thick folder. When he placed it in front of her, she noticed something familiar on the cover. Her father's handwriting. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside were documents she had never seen before. Property surveys, development plans, investment proposals, bank approvals. The deeper she looked, the more confused she became. "What is this?" she whispered. Noah leaned against the table. "Your father knew the day would come when someone might try to take advantage of you." Alara looked up sharply. "You mean Serena?" Noah didn't answer directly, but his silence confirmed everything. He trusted you more than anyone else, Noah continued. But he also knew you needed time to grow into that responsibility. Alara felt a tight feeling in her chest. All this time, he believed in me? Yes. Noah pointed to one of the documents. This project was his real dream. It was a large development plan for land outside the city. Housing, offices, community spaces. Far bigger than anything their current company owned. If this project succeeds, Noah said, it will be worth far more than the inheritance your sister is fighting for. Alara slowly sat down. For the first time since her father died, something inside her began to wake up. Hope. But why didn't he tell me? Noah's voice softened. Because he wanted you to discover your own strength. The room went quiet. For years, Serena had told her she was weak. But here was proof that the one person who mattered most had believed the opposite. Alara closed the folder slowly. What happens now? Noah's expression changed slightly. That depends on you. She looked confused. You can walk away and let your sister win, he said calmly. Or you can finish what your father started. The decision felt heavy. But deep inside, Alara already knew the answer. I want to finish it. For the first time since she arrived, Noah smiled. Good. Then we should get started. The weeks that followed changed everything. Instead of sitting silently in Serena's meetings, Alara began spending time at Noah's office learning everything she could. He showed her how to read complicated contracts, how to identify dishonest investors, how to negotiate without raising her voice. At first she doubted herself constantly. What if I make a mistake? She asked one afternoon while reviewing documents. Noah leaned back in his chair. You will. She looked alarmed. But mistakes are how people learn. The difference between strong people and weak people is simple. What is it? Strong people keep going. Those words stayed with her. Day after day, her confidence slowly began to grow. But something else was happening too. Something she hadn't expected. She began looking forward to seeing Noah. Their conversations became easier. They joked about small things. Shared late dinners after long meetings. Sometimes they worked so late that the city outside became silent. One evening, after finishing a difficult negotiation call, Noah brought 2 cups of coffee to the table. You did well today, he said. I felt like I was about to faint. You didn't show it. That's because I was focusing on breathing. Noah laughed. And for a moment, Alara realized something strange. She hadn't laughed like this since before her father died. Months passed. Slowly, the secret project began taking shape. Land agreements were signed. Architects joined the plan. Investors started showing interest. And every step forward made Alara stronger. But outside that office, Serena believed a very different story. To her, Alara looked defeated. Quiet. Withdrawn. Exactly the way she expected. And that misunderstanding was the only reason Alara had time to build something real. One evening, after a long day of work, Noah suggested they step outside. They climbed to the roof of the building where the wind was cool and the city lights stretched endlessly in front of them. Alara rested her arms on the railing. Sometimes I wish my father could see this, she said softly. He can, Noah replied. She turned toward him. What makes you so sure? Because everything you're doing now came from him believing in you. Alara was quiet for a moment. Serena never believed in me. Noah looked directly at her. Serena only believes in power. And I don't have power. Noah shook his head. You have something better. What? Patience. His voice was calm but certain. People who rush make mistakes. People who watch win. Alara felt warmth rise in her chest. For the first time in years, someone saw her the way her father once did. Not as weak, but as thoughtful. Strong in a quieter way. And suddenly she realized something else. Being around Noah made her feel safe. Not judged. Not compared. Just accepted. Their eyes met for a moment longer than usual. Then Alara looked away quickly, her heart beating faster. Over the following weeks, their connection deepened. It wasn't sudden or dramatic. It was quiet, comfortable, real. They learned each other's habits. Noah drank coffee far too late at night. Alara liked working near windows. They often disagreed about strategies, but respected each other's opinions. And slowly, without either of them saying it directly, their relationship grew into something more than partnership. One night, while reviewing architectural plans, Alara suddenly noticed Noah staring at her. What? She asked. He shook his head slightly. I was just thinking about something. What? You're not the person your sister thinks you are. She smiled faintly. I'm still figuring out who that person is. Noah's voice became softer. I think you're stronger than anyone in that company. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them felt different, almost electric. But before either of them could say anything more, Noah's phone buzzed loudly on the desk. He looked at the screen, and his expression changed instantly. What happened? Alara asked. Noah showed her the message. Her stomach dropped. It was from someone inside the company. Serena knows something. The room suddenly felt smaller. What does that mean? Alara asked quietly. Noah looked serious now. It means things are about to get difficult. Because Serena Vance had finally started asking questions. And when Serena wanted answers, she never stopped until she got them. The quiet plan Alara had spent months building was about to face its first real test. And neither of them knew how far Serena was willing to go to win. The moment Noah showed her the message, Alara felt a strange calm settle inside her chest. Months ago, that kind of news would have terrified her. Serena had always had that effect on her. Just the idea of confrontation used to make her feel small again. But things were different now. For the first time since her father died, Alara knew exactly what she was doing. And she knew exactly why she was doing it. She's going to come after us, Alara said quietly. Noah nodded. Yes. Good. Noah looked at her carefully, surprised by her answer. Good, he asked. Alara folded the documents in front of her and placed them neatly on the table. She's been underestimating me for years, she said. Maybe it's time she finally saw who I really am. Noah watched her for a moment before a small smile appeared on his face. There she is, he said. Alara raised an eyebrow. Who? The woman your father believed in. For a brief second, her heart softened. But reality returned quickly. Then we should finish what we started, she said. 3 days later, Serena called for an emergency board meeting. The message was short and aggressive. Mandatory attendance. No excuses. Alara knew exactly what it meant. Serena had discovered something. The large conference room inside the company building was filled with tension when Alara walked in. Investors, advisors, and managers were already seated. Conversations stopped the moment she entered. Serena stood at the far end of the table, arms crossed, wearing the confident smile she used whenever she believed she had already won. There you are, Serena said. Alara pulled out a chair calmly. You asked for a meeting. Serena didn't sit. Instead, she slid a folder across the table. I think everyone here deserves to know what my sister has been doing behind our backs. Whispers filled the room. Alara opened the folder slowly. Inside were printed emails, development plans, and investment agreements. Serena's eyes were sharp. You thought you could hide this? She asked. Alara closed the folder. No. That answer surprised Serena. What? I wasn't hiding, Alara said calmly. I was building. Serena laughed loudly. Building? You? Please. She looked around the room. This is exactly what I've been trying to tell all of you. My sister doesn't understand business. Some people shifted uncomfortably. But then Noah stood. This project belongs to Alara. Serena turned sharply toward him. And who are you again? Noah Cade, he replied calmly. I worked with Victor Vance. The room became quiet. Serena's expression tightened. My father never mentioned you. That was intentional, Noah said. Serena rolled her eyes. Oh, this is ridiculous. But then one of the investors spoke. We actually know about the project. Serena froze. What? Several people at the table nodded. We've been reviewing the proposal for months. Serena slowly turned back toward Alara. You went behind my back. Alara met her gaze. You pushed me out. The words landed heavier than anyone expected. For a moment, Serena had nothing to say. Then anger rushed back into her voice. You think a small side project makes you powerful? Alara reached into her bag and placed a thick stack of contracts on the table. This isn't a side project. The investors began flipping through the documents. Approvals, partnership agreements, funding confirmations. The development Serena thought was impossible had already moved forward. And every single paper had one name at the top. Alara Vance. The room erupted in shocked conversations. Serena's face slowly drained of color. You tricked me. Alara shook her head gently. No, you underestimated me. The exact words Serena had once used against her now echoed back across the room. And this time, Serena had no response. The weeks that followed changed everything. News about the development spread quickly. Investors who had ignored Alara before now wanted meetings. Journalists began asking questions. The project her father had quietly dreamed about was finally becoming real. But success didn't erase the emotional weight of what had happened. One evening, long after the office had emptied, Alara stood outside on the balcony overlooking the city. The wind was cool and peaceful. Noah joined her a few minutes later. "You've been quiet," he said. "I've been thinking." "About Serena?" "Yes." He leaned against the railing beside her. "Do you hate her?" Alara watched the lights of passing cars far below. "No," she said finally. "That would be easier." "Then what do you feel?" "Sad." Noah didn't interrupt. "She used to be my best friend," Alara continued softly. "Before all of this, before money, before competition." Her voice cracked slightly. "I wish things had been different." Noah's voice was gentle. "Sometimes people show us who they really are when power is involved." Alara nodded slowly. Then she looked at him. "But you showed me something else." "What's that?" "That not everyone wants to win by hurting others." Noah smiled faintly. "Your father believed that too." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Noah spoke again. "You know something?" "What?" "The strongest thing you did wasn't building this project." "What was it?" "You didn't become like her." Alara felt her chest tighten with emotion. For so long she had been trying to prove she wasn't weak. But now she understood something important. Strength didn't mean becoming loud, cruel, or ruthless. Strength meant staying true to yourself even when others doubted you. And suddenly she felt lighter than she had in years. Months later, the new development officially opened. Crowds gathered. Reporters took photos. Investors shook hands and congratulated the team. For the public, it looked like a business success story. But for Alara, it meant something deeper. It meant her father had been right, and Serena had been wrong. As the celebration slowly came to an end, Noah found her standing quietly near the entrance. "You disappeared," he said. "I needed a moment." He studied her expression. "Regret?" She shook her head. "No." "Then what?" "Gratitude." "For what?" "For the person who believed in me when I almost stopped believing in myself." Noah's voice softened. "You were always strong, Alara. You just needed someone to remind you." She looked at him carefully. "And you were the one who did." For a moment neither of them spoke. Then Noah took a small step closer. "I should tell you something," he said. "What?" "I didn't stay just because of your father's request." Her heart beat faster. "Why did you stay?" He smiled gently. "Because somewhere along the way, I fell in love with the woman he believed in." The words hit her like sunlight after a long storm. Alara laughed softly through tears she hadn't realized were forming. "You took a long time to say that. I wanted to make sure you believed in yourself first." She stepped closer to him. "I do now." And for the first time since everything began, Alara allowed herself to feel completely at peace. Her sister had taken her inheritance. But in the end, she had gained something far greater. Her confidence, her purpose, and a love she never expected to find. If this story moved you in any way, please like, comment, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Your support helps powerful stories like this reach people all around the world.